What's up, War Report family? It's day 3 of SEC Media Days. Joining me is no stranger to the show, Josh Pate from the Late Kick on 247. Josh, let's get started. This morning we got kicked off with Kalen DeBoer, brand new head coach at Alabama. I got a chance to ask him about the defenses that he's going to be facing versus what he was facing in the Pac. He kind of said, we do what we do, and it's going to work because that's what we've done. What do you think about whether his scheme is going to work in the SEC or not?
It'll work. I was victimized by him last year.
Okay.
You know, they go play Oregon twice.
Yeah.
Once in their building, once in Vegas. I picked against them both times because both times I wondered, Oregon's got the more physical team, or so I thought. DeBoer, a little more flash up there, throw the ball all around, and it's just me not having watched them enough. Because they do throw the ball a lot. Like, they're very good at that, but they are a run-oriented team. And they outrushed Oregon, especially in that Pac-12 championship game. They outrushed Oregon. Line of scrimmage, point of attack, grinding the ball on the ground. That was supposed to be Oregon's edge. And they just flipped the game entirely. Had the second most talented roster. I don't think anyone would argue that. So, you know, he comes to the SEC. He talked a lot, in fact, at great length this morning about how they look forward to being able to take advantage of the personnel you get to work with because you're at Alabama.
Right.
And you get to lean on folks. And you get to run the ball. And the one thing I noticed about them last year is they found what worked and they stuck with what worked. It sounds so simple. And so I think it'll be fine. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't guarantee you're going to win every game or even 10 of them or anything like that. But I don't think there'll come a time in this season where we look at each other and say, wow, his style's not working here. He may not have the best players on a given day, like maybe some deficiencies here and there, but yeah, his system will work down here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch, how he develops Jalen Milroe. Yeah. Look, Michael Penix obviously made New York for the Heisman ceremony, and he had a lot of success in college football last year. But the defenses will be of higher caliber, certainly, but he's going to have higher caliber players, and, we'll see how that turns out for him. His first Iron Bowl is going to be in Tuscaloosa, where Auburn hasn't won in 14 years. Do you, in your opinion, does Kalen DeBoer get what that rivalry is right now? I didn't hear anybody ask him that question today. I was surprised.
No, he doesn't get it. How would he get it? He's never lived it. If it's special, the answer should be no, because you have to have lived through it and experienced it in order to understand it. Now, I think, judging him and knowing him like I do, I almost think he looks at that the way many outsiders would look at a rivalry. An outsider looks at a rivalry and they see the way people hype it up and they say, well, hey, I'll show them because I'm going to come in there and do what I do, and what I do will be good enough in that football game because it's like any other football game. Then they realize it's not like any other football game. They're still technically right. You still block and tackle the same way you always have, but you know as well as I do, when Saban first came into the SEC, there was probably a little, maybe a lack of understanding about how much that game means to Auburn.
Yeah.
Game's always meant more to Auburn to me. And so you got to play them every year, man. Every other year you got to go down there. And I'm not so much looking forward to the first Iron Bowl as much as I am watching DeBoer and Alabama go in there next year. Next year, Auburn will probably have a much better team than they'll have this year. That's what I always look forward to, watching an Alabama or Georgia coach go into Jordan-Hare.
Yeah.
Kirby, by the way, yesterday probably gave the best endorsement of Jordan-Hare Stadium I've ever heard.
Didn't he,
so,
though?
yeah, appreciate the head coach in Georgia for that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's switch to Auburn. Hugh Freeze is going to be here tomorrow. And if you're listening to this, you may be watching this tomorrow. But he's got some questions to answer about his offense. And, of all the people he could have brought to media days, he decided to bring Payton Thorne, Eugene Asante, and Keldrick Falk. Most of the focus is going to be on Payton Thorne.
Right.
He was the league's worst passer last year by the numbers, by the yardage totals. He was low 60% completion percentage, which is what he was at Michigan State, just minus 150 pass attempts. Freeze has got to answer for what this offense was. Now, he said that he needed to upgrade the pass catchers around Payton Thorne for us to see a better Payton Thorne. But is that going to equate to 2,500 to 3,200 yards worth of passing this season? Or, what kind of improvement, are we going to expect here? Or what's reasonable?
I mean, just upgrading the personnel makes it reasonable. Year one over year two makes it reasonable to expect some improvement if you're healthy the whole year. I look at it the opposite way. When guys have played multiple years, I think I know who they are. And I'm going to make them surprise me by overperforming. DJU at Florida State, classic example.
Yeah.
We've seen him multiple years. Am I going to be the guy who believes he's going to be all of a sudden magically 40% better than what he's been? No. If he is, that's wonderful. I'd be happy to be wrong. So, just with better personnel, it's reasonable to expect a mild to moderate upgrade. Is it enough to swing games against teams you may be a double-digit underdog against? I'm not sure that that's the case. But see, you and I talked about this last time I was on your show. I disagree with a lot of folks. A lot of folks thought that Hugh Freeze should have gone and spent a lot of money in the portal and gotten a quarterback.
Right.
And I think they're more than a quarterback away. Therefore, I think he may have known exactly what he was doing by not pulling that trigger. Now, this time next year, maybe they were a lot more aggressive. Because this time next year, they think they can compete in the SEC.
Right.
The other thing about that is when we did our show with him, when we had him on our show, he was really brutally honest about where he thought they stood. He said a lot of these young guys are not going to be SEC ready, but I'm going to have to lean on them anyway. He said, roster's not where we need it to be yet. He was really honest. Will he step in here on day 4 at SEC Media Days? Does he sound the same with the national media? Is that the messaging that they're looking to put out? Because it may not be the most positive, heartwarming message in the world, but when you go ahead and you get in front of any hype and you make sure it doesn't build too much, there's something to be said for that. There's something to be said for setting yourself up to where 7-5 doesn't cause everyone to panic.
Yeah. Auburn has had some recruiting defections in the last few weeks, and it feels like he's got to sell his program on the field this year. It's got to be some kind of proof of concept in year 2. Now, in year 1, you effectively told everybody, I've got to recruit this thing from high school. That's going to take a few years. You and I both know you never know what a recruiting class actually is until about a couple years after, it's all said and done. But he's got Cam Coleman in here, top 5 recruit in all of college football, and he's going to start from game 1. But you also have Perry Thompson, who's a top 30 recruit. You went out and you got Penn State's leading pass catcher, and you got him to come to Auburn as well, too. To hold on to the young guys, though, it feels like he's going to have to throw the ball a lot more, and you got to do that. Like, Cam's on the outside, so in 12 personnel, we'll see him. But if defenses are going to focus in on him and zero in on him, we might have to see a little bit more 10 and 11 personnel, don't we?
Yeah. Yes is the answer to that, but think about what you just said. We're in an era now, because it's the NIL era, because you're paying guys a lot of money to come play for you, where we don't even talk about true freshmen anymore in a if proposition. Yeah. It's just they're going to come in and play. And you and I know as well as anyone else out there who's watched the sport for a long time. It doesn't matter if you pay a guy $0 or $1 billion. He's either going to be ready or he's not going to be ready.
Right.
Cam Coleman looks like an alien. He may very well be ready, but that general philosophy, there are a lot of places out there this year where they invested heavily in a true freshman class. Mm-hmm. The 4 and 5 stars in that class have to play. You don't pay a guy to sit on the bench. Does that mean all of them are going to be ready? Of course it doesn't. And so in the aggregate, you're going to have a lot of guys that are ill-prepared to deal with, especially in the SEC, what playing on the road is.
Yeah.
And that just means fluctuation. That means wild variance week to week in performance. So as a coaching staff, getting back to what you asked, you got to be ready to not only plan on having to do that, you got to be ready in a moment's notice during a Saturday to be able to understand midway through the first quarter, hey, this is going a different way than the way we thought it was. We got to be prepared. You got to have that toolbox, in other words, full of enough things that you can pull out where you got a backup pitch and then a backup pitch on that pitch. Because if your plan A is we're just going to lean on all the true freshmen and there's no plan B, that's how you go from a not so great season to a disastrous season.
Yeah, look, they're going to have to figure out that quarterback spot after this year when Payton Thorne's done, right? And you've got Walker White in the wings. And there was some talk about Juju Lewis possibly coming in. It seems like that's all died down. He even lost a star on most of the recruiting services. So he went from a 5-star to a 4-star. But Hugh Freeze has definitely got some work to do. It starts at media days, letting the world know what his team is going to be next year, and then going out and trying to prove that. So, again, I just want to check in with you one more time, Josh. We do the over-under thing every single year. You kind of played contrarian the last time we
Sure.
talked. Are you still there? Are you still under on Auburn?
For now, I am.
Okay.
For now, I am. Of course, as you always note, I reserve the right to change my opinion at the 11th hour.
It's a rating, not a ranking.
All I got to do is text you. I don't even have to do it on camera. I just have to text you.
All right. I will let the world know what that text message said when the time has come. I want to thank Josh Pate from The Late Kick for joining me. Guys, that's it for this segment. Live from day 3 of SEC Media Days. I want to thank our sponsor, Golden's Cast Iron out of Columbus, Georgia, for sponsoring this segment. Visit goldencastiron.com/WR. Let them know that we sent you. And we'll see you guys next time. We'll be back with more coverage later today. Please hit like and subscribe. We are The World Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. Signing off, and as always, War Eagle.